Okay, what I'm gonna do today is show how I shade my horses so they look 3D, even though this is a 2D drawing and there's no shading in it. And I'm actually going to be doing it using alcohol markers, but I would do a different technique if I was using colored pencils. So we're going to be doing this with alcohol markers, which will give a different effect, but we can try this out. Now, for the main color, obviously we're going to put different colors for the designs, but for the main color for the horse, we're going to pick pretty much one color. Of course, there's no rule. You could blend colors and make it like a rainbow, whatever, but we're just doing this for shading techniques. So I picked one of my favorite themes, which is lavender purple, and it doesn't really matter. Just pick 3 or 4 different shades of from light to dark of that color. So I just picked these and I did test a lot. So like you can see here, I tested different ones to see which ones look decent together. So if you're going to pick something like purple, then pick all the cool ones or pick all the warm ones, because it'll look a little bit it won't blend as well if you pick both cool and warm colors. So I picked these, and I'm going to be using also the blending tool. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is, just to make this simple, we're going to pick a section. Also, because we're using these alcohol markers and they dry quickly, we don't want to put a certain color and then use it all over. So I'm going to work on just this section right here and just shade this. Now, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been coloring and painting and drawing horses for a long time. So I kind of have an understanding of the anatomy, even if there's no light source. Of course, if there's a very direct light source from a certain direction, it does change the shading. But right now we're just doing like a universal light source, just generally where it goes deep in, it's darker, where it's coming out and protruding, it's lighter. So that's what we're going to be using or thinking about as our light source. Now, if you are not used to shading or drawing horses, then you can use this general idea for any horse, whether this exact page or any other horses, maybe in my other coloring books, where the position of the head is very similar. There's only really a few positions of the head, from either the front or the side profile or like a 3/4 angle profile. So if you find one that is almost similar to this position, you can use the same technique. So let's start with your blending tool. And we're going to, let's just start with this area right here. So I'm going to leave these lines here without coloring because I want to use a different color for that, probably yellow. So these are the areas that are going to be colored. Let's just fill that in with the blending tool. Got this one right here. Yeah, let's just do that. And let's go with our lightest color. And let's start the lightest color up top here. Gonna go with the next color. Gonna go with the next color. And we're gonna go with our darkest color. Probably should have used more of the blending tool. And we could also go over with our next to the last color. when you layer anyways, it's going to be darker. So I think I'm going to leave it like that. So now all we have to do is we're going to pretend there's a line right here, like an imaginary line. This area right here goes inward a little bit deeper, like there's a little groove. So this area right here is going to be dark. The other thing that's going to be dark is right under the head and the chin, right where the neck is. This is absolutely the darkest part, usually anytime on the horse, because of the shadow of the head. So, and this area here will also be dark, but we're going to take it section by section. So right here is going to be dark. I'm not going to be doing that right now. We're just going to go upward with the head. The other thing that's going to be dark is if you have a mane, right underneath the mane is going to be the absolute darkest possible also. So let's do this part right now. So I'm going to do this part with the color of the skin, which is purple. This part is tricky because there's so much going on here. So we're going to do this part where the darkest is underneath the hair and also underneath the hair from this side. But this line goes up here too. So we're gonna do that. And I'm just gonna go all the way around here to the end. And we're gonna take the absolute darkest and just make that line right here. Just pretend that there's that line going. And I'm gonna use the thin tip right here because the shadow here is very sharp where the hairline is. Now let's do the muzzle, mouth, nose area. Now this area right here, this is a tricky part, but this, if this is done well and you shade it well, which I know you can, it makes this the most beautiful part of the horse. This is usually my most favorite part. Okay, nice and saturated. Now, let's start with the lightest again. The lightest is going to be around this area, but there's going to be a lot of darks here too. So let's just leave the lightest areas right now, which is around the nostrils. You can kind of see a line right there. And I know it might be kind of challenging, but just have an imaginary line in your head where the circle around the nostrils are. And if you're not sure, just always go bigger because you can always add color later. I'm gonna go to my next shade. Go around that. Now, what I'm doing is as I go to the top here, this is gonna be somewhat light. So I'm not gonna go any darker than that. This is as dark as I want to go. I'm gonna use my next dark one and do it right here at the very tip because this is usually going to be pretty dark as it curves inward. I'm can always go around here like this too. Doesn't hurt to go dark around the edges. If you want to go another level, you don't have to, but you can. Go your absolute darkest and go and create a fine line. Now, we still have the nostrils. So what we're gonna do is, how it works is the darkest parts are on the side, and as it comes out, that it just opens up. I can't explain it, but you're gonna see it right now. So the actual darkest, absolute darkest would be on the side of the inside. Now, I have my darkest right here. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna start from light. I just like to start from light anyways because it's safer. I'm gonna saturate this again because I want this to blend nicely. I'm actually gonna draw a line for you so you kind of see what I'm looking at right here. I'm not gonna do it too dark, but this is the area that I am going to color in. And for this, it's almost the same, but it's just thinner. So now, we've already saturated it. Let's go with our absolute lightest. The lightest is going to be towards the middle of the muzzle. And I could do it right here too. Do the next one. It's like a gradation. I'm gonna skip and go to the absolute darkest because there's really no room here, and I'm gonna use my fine tip. Like that. I'm gonna do it on this side too. And go back to my blending tool. Let's see if this will blend it a little bit. Use any dark color here. What I wanna do, use any really dark color you have. Could be black, could be anything close to black. I'm just gonna pick neutral gray. Yeah, that's pretty close to black. I'm gonna use the fine tip. I'm not gonna do a lot. I'm just gonna do around the edge, like a backwards C, like that. And I'll probably just do it on the other one too, like that. So now you can see there's depth inside the nostril. Now, that might be bothering you, that little white outline. It's nice that it's nice and light, but normally it would not be that white. That's the highlight of it. So what we could do is find a lighter color, an even lighter color than your lightest one. Here's a light one that I found. There, it'll probably dry lighter too. There we go. So it's still light. Later on, after it dries, we can even add some white highlights to it. Now we're just gonna finish up the other areas just like we did this. All right, so now that we did the head, most of the head, just minus the areas that we want to add a different color for designs, which we're also going to apply the same principle. So if I were gonna make this yellow, I'm gonna pick 3 or 4 different shades of yellow. And again, I'm gonna go from light, absolute lightest to the darkest shade all the way down to here. Lightest to the darkest shade down here. But I'm still gonna be coloring with the purple, so let's finish the purple. So now let's focus on this neck area. So right here, we're going to go from dark, like we have this imaginary line right here, from dark to light to dark. The edges, we're going to make them dark. And in between that, it'll be light and then go back to dark. I know it seems like a little tiny bit of space, but we can do that. And then right here, I want you to either do this with a pencil or imagine it in your mind, but let's do like a like repeating the outline of the head, but this is going to be the shadow, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but this is the area that should be dark, going all the way up to here. As we get closer to the connection between the neck and the face, it's thinner. There's less space here, so the shadow is going to be thinner as well. So I don't know if you could see this, but this is where the shadow of the head is going to be. So you imagine it a drop shadow there. So let's start. I'm not going to do this area right now just because there's too much going on. So let's just start with saturating this with our blending tool. Now you can probably see the pencil outline. So it's probably not a good idea to use a pencil, but I just wanted to show you. Of course, this is a large area. Let's go with our absolute lightest, just because I always do that. Yeah, I know this is going to be the darkest area, but I still like to go with the lightest. And let's just color it all in. Okay. Now, it's the center that's going to be the lightest. So let's go around like this with the next darkest one. Next darkest one. You could see this side is very, very thin, and I'm not doing this because this is not the outside of the body. Only this is the outside. Now let's get our absolute darkest one. This is going to go underneath. And this is going to be the absolute thinnest. Let's use the thick side. Use this side again. I can go up here because I didn't do that part. And if you feel like this is too sharp, just go with your lighter shade over it. Go with another lighter shade over that one. There. So now you can see, you can feel the depth of that area. That's the shadow. Now, before we do the bottom part, let's finish off with the ears. And I wanted the ears to be separate because the ears can look intimidating, but we're gonna do this together. So you have a reference to look at if you need to, when you are doing any horse in almost any position, the same principles will apply. So you got to think, what is the darkest area in the ear? It's always going to be right here. The deeper you go inside, it's going to get darker and darker and pretty much almost black. And almost the same thing, but from the side you don't see it, so it's not going to be as dark on this ear because we don't see the inside of the ear, but we do see the inside of the ear here. So again, the lightest part is also probably going to be around here. The more shading and details that you do, the more it'll pop up, but we're trying to keep this as simple as possible. So let's just do one ear. I'm going to saturate it. Well, this is actually a different part of the skin, so technically it would be a different color. I'm just gonna make it purple just in this picture, just because I already have the purple, but you can make it a different color. So let's start with the lightest one that we have. We're gonna go around the edge like this. Going to go a little bit darker. Now this line right here, that's where it's going to start to get dark. Let's get a little bit darker. Let's just color this whole thing in like that. And your darkest, it's going to start right here, not from the edge, but inside. This is the outside, this is the inside. And you can create like a crescent shape. Now let's go back and try to blend this so it's not so sharp. Just add a different color, the darker one, just to blend it. Make it almost another crescent, like an elongated crescent shape. And I'm going to use my really dark gray. I'm going to make another really thin, very thin crescent shape here. Okay, you can see that it's bleeding because I used so much alcohol, but that will give it the absolute deepest depth. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the other one. Okay, now that we've done the majority of this, we're going to focus now on the back part, which is a little part of the tummy and the back side. So this looks challenging, but we're going to make it as simple as possible, and you can apply this to most of the other horse coloring pages that are in a pretty similar position. So again, what we're going to do is try to saturate this. We're probably going to need to keep saturating it since it's such a large space. Let's just actually just work on this area right here, the back side, right here. And we're gonna keep this here for later so we can divide it into sections. So now what is the darkest? It's gonna be around this edge right here, but this area, just pretend there's like a oval here. That's your lightest area. So let's go with our lightest color. Let's go over it quickly. Okay. Let's go with the next one. And we're going to, I'm just gonna make the shape that's in my head that I'm referring to right here. Oops. So it's kind of like an oval, but the line gets a bit thinner as we get to the edge. Let's do the next one. Kind of like a sun, but warped. Don't mind the mistakes. I have my darkest one now. Actually, I'm not going to use the darkest one. I'm going to go back to the second to last one and go around here like this. And then I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to go back to, I'm going to go to my lightest color here. Go over all of it because I want to blend it. I don't want these lines. I'm gonna use the absolute darkest one I have right now, and I'm gonna go close to where the head is. You can kind of do like an outline around the head. And then I'm also gonna go all the way down here because this is gonna be the darkest area where the tummy is overlapping. And you can go over here too. And create a line right here. Go to your next darkest one right here. Just blend it in. Blend this in if you want. Don't really like that sharp line. And we're gonna do the same thing from dark to light, curved like that. And this area right here, like we did before, where I drew, is gonna be dark, dark under the chin. Let's saturate this. Now that we have pretty much colored in the main color of the body and added our shadows and made it pop out of the page and look 3D, we could, if you want to, add highlights. It'll make your horse look shiny and add more dimension. So the areas where you can add would definitely be the nostrils. You can add pretty much anywhere, but not a line all around, just certain sections. To make it look that it's rounded. You can add here, you can add here, we can add definitely around the ear, just a little bit here, maybe a little bit here. I would wait until I colored these in first before adding. We could add a little bit on the back. Make sure it's tapered so it goes to a thin line. You can add a little bit here if you want. You can add here. You can even add some dots right there. You can add some right here too, and some dots. There, that adds just a little bit of shine. Now, what I want to show you to do, since now we've been able to create shadows and create a 3D looking horse, is how do you do that when there's designs? So what I did was I selected, again, 3 or 4 colors that have different shades from light to dark that I'm going to apply to, I'm just going to do it on this part of these lines right here with the same exact technique as I did for the purple, so that it looks like it's obviously the same dimension. So let's start with our lightest to darkest. Let's do this one right now first, and let's saturate this. And our lightest is going to be close to the middle. And when you pick your colors, be sure that there is a difference between each one so they're not too similar. Otherwise, you won't be able to tell that it's getting lighter or darker. I'm gonna do this part right here too. Now you can see that there's such a strong line. Let's pick one of the light ones, not that one. Picking up the color, that, so we could blend it in a little bit. There. So now you can see it's getting from lighter from the top, because this is where the light hits all the time, and it gets darker as it goes down where the shadow is. I know it goes in inside, but we're just going to do this part right now. Also, it makes it easier so that we don't have to worry about it drying up. I'm just going to do those two. Okay, so now you can see I also finished doing this area right here with the yellow. And I'll go back and work on this. This is just fun. It doesn't really need that much shading techniques, because you can get away with just putting the colors that you want. But I do want to add some of this yellow tone down here as well, so there's repetition. The colors you choose and the combination of colors do matter. It just, you know, makes it pop, because you want the shadows to pop and you want the colors to complement each other and contrast. So let's do this area right here. Pick some areas of it that can also be yellow. I would like it to be the ones that are connected to the purple so that they contrast. So yeah, I'm just gonna do that then. Let's just, also because I want to put my yellow markers away so I could start focusing on something else. Let's do this too. Okay, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna start with the lightest. The lightest area is gonna be right here and kind of right this area, because this has got a shadow. So let's just go like this. This is where it's gonna be the lightest. Maybe a little bit right here. And then the next shade right here, like around both sides. And then the next shade, the darker one, as we're getting towards the outside edge of the horse, and this area right here is where there's a shadow. And right here. Let's go back and blend. I'll just do this, I didn't do this part right here. Blend here. There. And we can use our absolute darkest one and just do that area right there, along with the same shadow. I have this dark marker here too. I'm gonna just go around here and add it where the hairline is. Shadow, I mean. There. So now we're going to leave the designs and we're going to go straight for the mane and the tail, because I know that could be challenging sometimes, especially if you want it to look like hair, not flat. So I picked green and I settled on these shades of green, kind of a turquoise, towards turquoise. So make sure you pick 3 or 4 colors that have enough difference in shading. So now, as always, we're going to start with saturating again, this technique you can pretty much apply to any mane on any of the horses on any of the pages. So you can use this as a reference. Let's use our lightest color, and it doesn't matter if you use the flat or the fine tip. What we're going to do is there are going to be areas that are light and dark. So we're going like a gradation. Let's use the thicker side. And we're going to pick some areas like this that are going to be the light areas, which are usually the ones that are sticking out, like this right here. I'm going to use the next color. And again, just around the edges. You can see that this is going to be darkest. This is getting dark right here. This is getting darker right here. And this is the darkest shade that we have. Probably use this one a little bit more sparingly. Let's go back and use the second or the third one to blend. Let's do it like this, because I don't like these sharp lines. So what you could do is go back to your absolute darkest one, use the fine tip or use a fine liner, which would probably be better. And you can add, these lines. You can even add them on the lines that are already drawn, because that adds like shadow inside. There. So just to show you kind of what I mean, I'm going to do an example right here. So say you have, here's like a strand of hair. Here's a strand of hair. We're going to say that this is going to be the dark part and this is going to be the light part. So if I take my lightest shade, this is the light area right here. Smite a little bit right here. My next dark one around the outside of it. So this is the lightest. Both sides of it is going to get dark. And this is without using the blending tool. And then it's going to get even darker. I'm just going to do the whole thing right here. Getting darker. And then our darkest shade is right here in the middle. So let's just try to blend it a little bit more. And then what we did was we just added some strands where there's actually a shadow. So basically what you're getting is the lightest area here, and then on both sides, like it's round, it gets darker, 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 and darker. And of course, if you add a little bit of highlight on it, you can add some white. Here's a better one here. Add some white. Only in this area right here where it's supposed to be the lightest. So let's do that on our horse. These areas are where it's supposed to be the lightest. You can add a little bit of highlights right there in the direction of the hair. And if it goes into your dark area, that's fine. You can add some right here if you feel like it. I'm just gonna add one here because I want it to contrast with the dark. There. And we're gonna go ahead and do that on the tail. All right, so I finished most of the horse, and I wanted to do the eyes with you because if you can make really nice eyes, it'll help your horse to look more realistic. So pick any colors you want. Really, I'm gonna go with blue eyes, so I picked a dark blue, a lighter blue, and an even lighter green. And I'm gonna start, of course, with my lightest color, and that's gonna be pretty much, you could do the whole thing. I'm just gonna go around the middle part. Now we're gonna keep that white spot, it's that white circle that you see there, we're gonna leave it white. It has to stay completely white. Go to your next darker color and go around the pupil and towards the outside of the eyeball. Take your absolute darkest, and that's gonna go only on the top part, and pretend you're making a crescent and maybe around the edge so that it goes around, touching your white circle. You don't have to go all the way around. If you want, you can. I don't usually do that. I just do that. And that's it. Very simple, easy eye colored in. And it looks realistic, and it makes your whole horse pop out of the page.